The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It drummed against the tin roof like a restless heart, impatient and aching for calm. Inside that small countryside house, Adrian sat by the window with a half-empty cup of coffee gone cold. The once white curtains fluttered weakly against the damp wind, and the scent of old wood filled the air. He had spent months alone in that house after losing everything that gave his life color, his wife, Clara, and the baby they never got to meet. Grief had turned the world gray, and the silence of the mornings was the hardest part to bear. There were days he didn't open the door, didn't speak, didn't even bother turning on the lights. He was living, but he wasn't alive. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love that heals when you least expect it, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need a little light. It was a quiet Thursday morning when it happened. The rain had just softened into a drizzle when Adrian heard a knock, hesitant, barely there. He thought he imagined it until the second knock came, louder, trembling with urgency. Opening the door, he saw a young woman standing there, soaked from head to toe, her hands clutching the straps of an old brown backpack. She looked around 28, her long black hair plastered to her face, eyes wide with both fear and hope. Her voice was soft but cracked with exhaustion as she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. My car broke down near the bridge, and there's no signal out here. Could I just wait until the rain stops?" Adrian hesitated. It had been months since anyone had stood at that door. Still, something in her trembling posture made it impossible to turn her away. "Come in," he finally said, stepping aside. She entered quietly, wiping her shoes on the mat before looking around the dimly lit room. Her clothes dripped rainwater onto the wooden floor, and Adrian handed her a towel and an old flannel shirt. "Thank you," she said softly, giving him a small, grateful smile. "I'm Mira." He nodded. "Adrian." The hours passed slowly. Mira sat near the fire Adrian had kindled, sipping warm tea while her wet clothes dried on a chair nearby. She looked tired, but her eyes carried something deeper, a kind of sadness that mirrored his own. They spoke little that first day, just quiet exchanges about the storm, her car, and the long road she had been traveling from one small town to another. She was, as she put it, running from noise, though she didn't say what that noise was. Adrian understood. Some pain doesn't need to be spoken to be recognized. As the day faded, Adrian offered her a spare blanket and a spot on the couch. But the power went out just before midnight, and the fire dimmed to glowing embers. The house grew cold, and the sound of rain returned heavier, pounding the roof with wild rhythm. Myra's voice broke through the darkness, uncertain yet soft. "Adrian, is there space left in your bed?" The words froze him. Not because of their meaning, but because of their sincerity. There was no flirtation, no hidden motive, only quiet vulnerability, like someone asking if they were allowed to exist near another human again. He looked at her, her face half hidden in shadow, her eyes glassy from the chill. He nodded once. "Yeah, there's space." That night, they lay side by side, not touching, not speaking, just breathing in the silence. The warmth of another person's presence after months of loneliness felt almost surreal. Adrian stared at the ceiling, feeling his heartbeat in ways it hadn't in a long time. Beside him, Mira sighed deeply, as though she, too, had found a strange sense of peace. Morning came with soft light pouring through the curtains. The storm had passed. When Adrian woke, Mira was already in the kitchen, awkwardly making scrambled eggs and burning toast. She laughed nervously when he caught her. "I don't usually ruin breakfast," she said, smiling shyly. He smiled back for the first time in months. Something simple, human, began to stir between them, small moments of laughter, shared meals, and quiet conversations by the window. Over the next few days, Mira stayed, saying her car needed a part that would take time to arrive. She helped around the house, cleaned the dusty shelves, and even fixed a broken cabinet door. It was strange how quickly the house began to feel alive again. The silence that once haunted Adrian's mornings was replaced with the sound of Mira humming softly while washing dishes or talking to the old cat that used to ignore everyone but Clara. But as the days passed, Adrian began to wonder, who was she really running from? Why did she look distant whenever he mentioned her plans after the car was fixed? One evening, as the sky painted itself orange and blue, Adrian found her sitting outside on the porch, staring at the horizon. She held a photograph in her hands, a worn picture of a man and a little boy. Her fingers trembled slightly. "He's my brother," she said quietly, not waiting for him to ask. "He died 3 months ago. Car accident. We were supposed to be traveling together, starting a small cafe near the coast. But after he was gone, I couldn't bear staying home. So I just drove. Anywhere. Until I ended up here." Adrian didn't know what to say. He just sat beside her, letting the silence speak for them both. Loss had carved both their hearts into fragile shapes. Maybe that's why they understood each other without needing many words. That night, the house was filled with the sound of crickets and the faint crackle of fire. Mira leaned against his shoulder, whispering, "It's strange. For the first time in months, I don't feel like I'm just passing through. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be." Adrian turned to her, his voice low and steady. "What if you said you wanted to stay forever?" The question hung between them, heavy, raw, terrifying. Mira looked at him with eyes that reflected the firelight and 1,000 unspoken fears. "Forever," she repeated softly. "I don't know if I deserve that yet." "You do," he said simply. "We both do." From that night on, something shifted. They stopped pretending she was just waiting for her car. She planted flowers in the garden. He started cooking meals again. They repaired old things together, a broken chair, a squeaky window, even their own fractured hearts. The neighbors, few and far between, began to notice. People started waving again when they passed Adrian's house, curious about the laughter echoing from the porch. But love, even the quiet kind, doesn't come without fear. One morning, a tow truck arrived with her fixed car. Adrian found her standing beside it, tears welling in her eyes. "It's ready," she said softly. "I can leave today." He felt that familiar ache return, the one he thought he'd buried with his past. "Do you want to?" he asked. She hesitated. Her hands trembled, her lips quivered. "I don't know," she whispered. "I came here lost, and somehow found a home I wasn't looking for." The wind rustled the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain. She took a deep breath, looked back at the house, and then at him. "If I stay," she said, "promise me we'll keep building something new. Not to forget what we lost, but to make something beautiful from it." He nodded, unable to speak. The car engine went silent. The tow truck left. And she walked back toward him, tears and rain mixing on her cheeks. He reached out, pulling her close. For the first time in years, Adrian felt whole again. Months passed. The garden bloomed with wild daisies and lavender. The once empty room became Myra's art space, filled with canvases painted in shades of peace and sunrise. Adrian began teaching again at the small town school, something he had abandoned long ago. Their days were simple: breakfast shared, books read by the window, quiet laughter at dusk. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch with the golden light stretching across the fields, Mira looked at him and said, "You know, sometimes I still wake up afraid this isn't real. That I'll open my eyes and be back in that empty apartment." Adrian smiled, taking her hand gently. "Then we'll just keep making it real every day." Life didn't erase their pain. It simply grew around it, like vines around an old fence, still there, but no longer breaking under the weight. They had found something rare, a love born not from need, but from shared healing. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that love can find you even after loss, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your engagement helps us spread warmth and hope through true and heartfelt stories like this one. And before you go, comment below, there's always space for kindness. Let's fill the world with it, one story at a time. I in that little countryside home, where rain once fell endlessly and silence reigned for too long, two souls found what they never expected, not just a bed to share, but a life worth staying for. And as the evening light faded into soft twilight, Mira whispered once more, "Is there still space in your bed?" Adrian smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Always," he said. And the world, for a moment, felt complete again.